thank you for this day that you've given us to come together and pull together our collective conscience to help lead this town in the direction that you've called us to lead it, and give us the wisdom that only you can provide us, and give us the comfort in the decisions that we've made after we've made them. We ask that you just watch over the city here and watch over the people in it. And just thank you for being an amazing God who's given us a lot of resources to responsibly steward over. And I ask that you watch us as we steward over these resources that you've given us. In your name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, guys. All right, item number 2, approval of the agenda.
Move to approve.
Got a motion? Do I get a second?
Second.
Yes, so thank you for that. Can I go ahead and add section, would it be 4.3, somewhere between 4 and 5, to appoint a new secretary, a first secretary? Do I need a motion to do that?
Is that the appropriate place to put it, is under 4.3? Okay.
Imagine if 5 is now 6. So. Then back to approval of the agenda. I had a motion to approve earlier. And a second.
I'll second with the additional item.
All right. All right, so that's been approved. Item number 3, citizen comments. Do we have any citizen comments tonight? None tonight. Thank you. Moving right along to item number 4, approval of the minutes. We have one for October's meeting that we didn't get to last meeting. So item 4.1, can I get an approval of the minutes for that meeting?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. Got a first and a second. And then item 4.2, approval of November's meeting minutes.
We probably need to go ahead and vote on it. On 4.1 before we move on.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
I'm good with moving along, but let's, might want to do that.
Can we go ahead and vote on the approval of the minutes? We've got a motion to approve. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. All right, approved.
Okay, and do we need to go back to the agenda? Yeah, we need to go back to the agenda.
Thanks for
I know
holding me
first times
accountable.
are a little, well, I know, first time's a little more.
Make it legal. Shall we go ahead and go back to item 2, approval of the agenda? We got a motion to approve. We got a second to approve. Can we go ahead and vote on that? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. And we're approved. Great. Now let's bump up to item 4.2. We have a motion to approve November's meeting minutes.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. All right, and it's approved. We're going to get the hang of this tonight.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to point 5, bonds. Oh, sorry, 4.5, we're going to elect a first secretary tonight. Anybody like to appoint a first secretary?
Who doesn't have a position currently? Raise your hand, please. I would nominate Mr. Callie.
All right. Would like to go ahead and all in favor to approve? Say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, approved. Congratulations, sir. And item number 5, bonds. 5.1, Stable Acres. An irrevocable standby letter of credit in the amount of $65,000 to cover roads, sidewalks, storm drainage, and other improvements specified by the approved plans. Planning Commission set the amount on December 12, 2008, and a letter of credit will expire on January 6, 2018. Commissioner Burks, would you mind going ahead and reading the staff comments on that?
Sure. Staff has contacted the developer, Mr. Barry Sullivan, who has indicated that he plans to renew the existing letter of credit for the same amount and by the deadline.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for the staff? No?
I would move to call the existing letter of credit, if it's not approved, by January 6, 2018.
We got a first and a second. Any discussion between the board? No? All right, want to go ahead and call it? Motion to approve. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, that's been approved. Item number 5.2, Stable Acres again, an irrevocable standby letter of credit in the amount of $12,500 to cover sidewalks along road frontage of lots 16 through 20, fencing of detention pond, and installation of drainage ditch. Planning Commission set the amount on June 9th, 2015, and the letter of credit will expire January 6, 2018. Commissioner Burks, would you mind reading those staff comments again?
Staff has contacted the developer, Mr. Barry Sullivan, who has indicated that he plans to renew the existing letter of credit for the same amount and by the deadline. I would move to call the letter of credit if it's not renewed by January 6, 2018.
Got a first and a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, approved. Item number 5.3, Western Woods Village, Section 4, an irrevocable standby letter of credit in the amount of $181,000 to cover roads, sidewalks, storm drainage, and other improvements specified by the approved plans. The Planning Commission set the amount on June 9th, 2015. The letter of credit will expire January 10th, 2018.
Staff has contacted the developer, Mr. Marlon Cunningham, who has asked for a reduction in the letter of credit amount. The city engineer has since recommended a reduced amount of $60,000 for the remaining improvements in this phase.
Any discussion for the staff?
I just have a couple questions. You know, there's been several times this one neighborhood has had drainage issues, and I just want to make sure that before any reduction is made, that everything has been cleared up and taken care of.
The city engineer has gone out and performed his site inspection and definitely took into account anything related to drainage in addition to the roads and the sidewalks. So nothing will be overlooked as far as drainage goes.
Okay, thank you.
I've got some, I drive through this every day. I know roads are deteriorating out there where they was torn up during the construction. I know the gravel across from the subdivision has got gravel, the ditch has got gravel dumped in it. And before I could vote for this, I would like Will to be here so I could ask him some questions about it. Just, I drive through this every day. I've got neighbors that now know I'm on the planning commission and have asked me about this repeatedly. They will stop me trying to leave in the morning to ask about it. So unless I have all the answers from Will, I will not be voting for this tonight.
Any further discussion?
Do you have anything that you actually could ask staff that maybe she could help? Or do you just want Will?
Are they gonna fix the road?
Yes, there are definitely deficiencies as far as the ditch on the other side of Wiley Circle that has deteriorated. They will have to fix that before the maintenance bond goes into effect. This is just to reduce the bond that's in place for infrastructure that hasn't gone in yet. So they periodically will reduce it once, they've put in all the sidewalks. They take out the money that was set aside for the sidewalks because they've been put in. But anything that is deficient, we actually took some photos of the drainage ditch there was a culvert that had a lot of sediment in it. The building inspector took a picture of that yesterday and sent it to me. All of those items will have to be corrected before any releasing is done or before it goes into a maintenance bond effect. But as far as just reducing the performance bond, That just covers the installation of improvements that have been, you know, put on the ground. So all those other items will definitely be corrected.
Thank you.
Out seeing it, $60,000, doesn't seem like a lot of money unless he's almost completed with the project. And it's supposed to be plus 25% over what the estimated work is.
That's correct. Actually, Western Woods has another bond on the city's books for other parts of the subdivision. This is just for Phase 4. So there's other money that's set aside for other improvements in different parts of the subdivision.
Parts.
It is.
I guess I don't know I was not on the planning commission, and I don't know which I know which phase 1 was and which phase 2 was. But the other phase, I don't even know how many phases there is. I know the first 2 phases, they did all right, and this last one has been terrible.
Yeah, this Phase 4, it covers Wiley Circle, the extension of Wiley Circle, and then Colquitt, the cul-de-sac. So they did just put in the remainder of the sidewalks. I believe that the 60,000 would cover the, they still have to do street trees, some additional stormwater improvements and some drainage, I'm sure. I will get, Will does a breakdown, and I can get him to send it to me and forward it to you all tomorrow if you'd like. But he is pretty thorough and comprehensive when he makes his recommendations.
Well, I just know, I've been in these situations, and I know just what I see driving up the road, not looking at anything else. I would be hard pressed to do that for $60,000. Just repaving, fixing the road, cleaning the ditches out, and you still got the streetscape, the trees and stuff. I'm thinking I'll be quiet.
Oh, no, that's your job. I think if you have concerns, you need to ask and make sure. Is there, the bond amount, is there any way that we could not approve that amount and request more without Will's?
Yeah, actually, we have another meeting. It's the day before. The next meeting will be the 9th of January, and this bond doesn't expire till the 10th. But that's why we put it on for tonight, was we didn't want to vote the day before to call it if, you know. So just because of the tight time frame. But we can certainly, you can vote however you want. If you want to get a more thorough breakdown, to look at it at the January 9th meeting, that's fine.
Any further questions to the staff? Can I get a
Well, if we vote right now, we got to vote it up or down. If we want to defer it, then, you know, we need to state we're deferring it.
Make a comment to increase the amount of withholding, or the letter of credit. So we just make a motion to increase it to $85,000 or $80,000. That's where I would be. Huh?
You can do that as well.
Yeah, that's where I would be to go against what he said based on what we're hearing tonight. I would like to increase it to $85,000.
So would,
You can amend the motion to say that, and you get a second, then we can vote, or the originals can withdraw, and then we can make a new motion. Either way.
I don't believe anybody's made a motion yet. So if you would like, Mr. Anderson, you can.
I'd like to make a motion that we substitute $85,000 in the amount of retention for this financial retention for this project, and until the new letter, until the work is completed and the engineer can verify that there's enough monies and the work has been satisfied.
Okay. Got a motion? Can I get a second?
Okay, so your motion is basically that we're going to raise the amount to 85,000 until,
So we meet next month, and if the engineer can come out and give us justification to stay with the 60,000, we can address it at that time.
Okay, I'll second that.
So we've got a motion on the table to lower the bond to $85,000 unless the city engineer comes back and says something else that would justify this at the next meeting? Okay. Sound
That way,
good?
we're not into a 24-wire deal. He's got to go jump through hoops to go either change his letter of credit. He has to go to the bank and do that. And so we're telling him right now 85,000. So he gets the 85,000 in here, then he can coast. But if he goes to 60, he may only have 24 hours to keep him getting that $181,000 letter called.
Makes sense.
Any other discussion amongst the board? All right, I'd like to go ahead and call the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay.
Nay.
All right, it's been approved. All right, we're moving into old business now. Item 6.1, rezoning of property requested by Jeff Wynn. Property located at 1179 and 1183 Highway 96 North. That's tax map 021, parcels 23.10 and 23.11. That's 5.25 acres. Current zoning district is RS40. Requested zoning district is commercial general. Property owned by Mr. Jeff Wynn, who is here tonight. The board like to ask the staff or Mr. Wynn anything in particular? Comments?
Hang on one second. I'd like to be able to find, there it is.
Actually, we have staff comments on this. Commissioner Burks, would you mind reading staff comments again?
Let me take a drink first. This item was deferred at the November Planning Commission meeting as follow-up to discussion from the prior meeting. The staff planner has compiled a list of existing businesses in the area. These two parcels are approximately 1.4 miles from the Flying J travel stop and the Deerfield Inn, and approximately 3/4 of a mile from the entrance to the Evergreen Industrial Park. In the immediate vicinity of the property to the north is Old New Hope Baptist Church, New Hope Church of Christ, and Solar FX, window tinting home business. In the immediate vicinity of the property to the south is Varden's Auto Body Shop, Old Path Baptist Church, and Meeting Place Church. Additionally, the area along this stretch of the Highway 96 corridor is fairly low density and characterized mostly by larger residential tracts, with the exception of the smaller 10-lot subdivision Blakemont Estates located northeast of the site. For land use context, approximately 3/4 of a mile north is the Evergreen mini storage operation, and approximately 1.5 miles south is the Stuff It In mini storage operation.
Chairman?
Yes, sir.
At the last meeting, Commissioner Burks asked me a question about the fact that Mr. Wynn had acquired his property apparently by executor's deed.
Mm-hmm.
The executor's deed makes reference to certain restrictive covenants on the land that would run with the land until December 31 of 2020. That's within the body of the executor's deed. My opinion to the Planning Commission is that we don't know if someone may or may not have standing to enforce these restrictive covenants, but it shouldn't have any bearing on how the city approaches rezoning requests.
Great.
So if the city wishes to rezone the property, it can rezone the property, but Mr. Wynn, may or may not have an issue with someone who wishes to enforce restrictive covenants. I don't know if anyone still has standing to do that, or if those rights have been waived, or if he doesn't plan on doing anything until the restrictive covenants have expired. I don't know, but the issue is, as far as the Planning Commission is concerned, I think the Planning Commission can, to make the decision without without concerning itself regarding whether or not there's restrictive covenants in place.
Great, thank you for clearing that up. Appreciate it. Board have any additional questions, comments, concerns to the staff or to Mr. Nguyen? Sam?
A third storage facility right there.
We can definitely discuss that amongst ourselves once we have a motion on the table.
Well, I make a motion that we approve as read.
We have a motion to approve as written? Second motion to approve. All right. Any discussion amongst the board?
Really need 3 storage facilities right there in a row. I mean, are they all full to capacity? Are all of our storage facilities full to capacity that we would need an additional same type business? Or is that not the planning commission's purview?
Not our property. It's his property. If he wants to put up a, a church, like there's all these churches too, I mean, who are we to say what he puts up?
As we drive down 30, and I know that we're not Spring Hill, and I know we're not trying to be Spring Hill, and I know that we're not trying not to be Spring Hill, but as I drive down Spring Hill and I see on Highway 31, there are 500 auto tire shops. I would hate 496 to be a big row of storage facilities. If we want a pretty town, does that make our town pretty?
But if we don't need it, if it fails, then it fails, then it becomes something else.
That's the way I see
An
it.
empty eyesore
Yeah,
building.
it's up to him.
Well, and I believe there are some commercial around there, but this particular property, it's not necessarily commercial, so you have to think of the impacts of the surrounding property. So if there was a reason that that is reason enough. I mean, but I think when it comes down to it is, he's asking for, this is something that commonly comes up. Somebody wants something rezoned, and so, it's their right for us to consider it. So,
Oh, definitely, definitely.
so I just think that, the questions of, which they kind of commented what was surrounding in the area, but it is kind of a spot zoning issue also. So like as you go down the road, you have a spot here, a spot there. As a planning commission, if we're trying to get away from that, then that would be something we would want to consider,
Is that what we're striving for in our new guidelines that we're coming up with after the first of the year?
I think we'll get some guidance. I mean, but I think that it's, as a planning commission, and then, jointly in conversations, I guess, with the board or direction, I mean, hopefully when we get a comprehensive plan, a lot of these issues wouldn't be discussed because we would have a pretty firm foundation on what the city's vision is, and then it won't be so much discussion. But right now, I mean, we do have a land use map, and we can still consider that land use map. But what you see commercially up and down 96 is some board somewhere allowed these spots to come up. And so, you get to the point of, okay, this board let this spot come up. Can we go, down the street and across the street and allow it? And a lot of times when I look at zoning stuff, I look what's touching the property. Is there residential? Would you want in your backyard or front yard? I'm sure the people with the church across the street, if we all invited them in here, they would have some comments about the church in their backyard. So, I mean, I just think when you go to consider this, you have to take that into consideration.
Stanza, do you have anything to add to the discussion?
I just wanted to make 2 comments. First, This is just for a commercial rezoning, so you really shouldn't, even though he has a somewhat of an idea of what he wants to maybe use this for, you really need to be looking at it as going from residential to commercial, not residential to a storage facility. So, because that could, you could get it rezoned to commercial, and he could come in and put anything that fits, that is allowable in the CG zone. So, the other thing is that there are several nodes along 96 that are, and this is on the land use map that we have from 2012, where you have an intersection with a major road like Northwest Highway here, where the handful of parcels at that intersection are shown on the future land use map to be commercial, like a little neighborhood node of commercial. So this would be one of them. There's a few others where you have intersections along 96, but these two parcels were actually shown as future commercial on the land use map. That's all.
Thank you for clearing that up. Commissioner Burke?
I would like to thank the city planner for saying specifically, once it's commercial general, it can be anything that fits commercial general, so it could be literally anything that fits there. One thing I'd like to consider, where we see Old Northwest Highway, and is it New Hope Road right there above that?
It's Jingo directly north, and then New Hope there's two.
To the right?
Yeah, one to the right and one to the left.
Those intersections are not straight in, they are angled intersections. Anyone who's driven through those know it's kind of dangerous at times to pull out there. Just, your line of sight is just off. And then we're gonna look at adding in commercial general, which again could be anything, could be convenience store, it could be anything. We don't know what the traffic pattern will be. So right across from that intersection, or down from the intersection, we're looking at adding in what could be a lot of traffic, could be a little bit of traffic, I don't know. The churches are a little different, not necessarily because they're a religious organization, but it's the use of them. You have more specific use Wednesdays and Sundays. It's not a 7-day-a-week kind of use where it's constantly in and out. So I think we can look at that a little differently as far as the impact on the area. But I just can't get past the fact that it's completely surrounded by residential. That's the concern to me. It's a long, narrow strip surrounded by residential. And again, it does feel like spot zoning. Now, is that specific parcel under the land use map future commercial general already, or is it the one beside it?
No, the two, where you have a red square because he owns both of those parcels. So both of those parcels, and then the couple of parcels adjacent that abut Northwest Highway are all shown as being future commercial.
Any further discussion?
Well, and how far, that's pretty close to what was considered Brownland Farms and, now the Walton Group, right? So that's probably why it was considered future commercial, is they probably viewed, and I'm just guessing, viewed it as potential, there was some commercial with the front of that development. So, just saying, that's probably, I don't know, 100%, but my guess would be that's probably why they slated that. But as of right now, there's no development, and there hasn't been in many years.
Any other comments? So we've got Mr. Anderson.
I just want to say, to me, I think it would be a pretty serious negative to turn it down to be commercial, because if you're looking at 96, you're looking at, is it from the Flying J's that comes back towards the main city, It's becoming more commercial. It's becoming a little bit better quality commercial, and there's like, the things that are gonna come in down through there, that's the way the city's gonna feed from it. That's the interstate, that's where the commercial stuff is gonna feed. And I think it'd be a serious mistake, unless there's just something to prevent it that stands out real hard. I think that piece ought to go commercial. I mean, somebody else could come in here next month and buy that thing and want to put a nice house on the backside and change it back. But to me, the land use over time is going to be commercial.
Any further discussion? All right, we've got a motion before the board right now to go ahead and approve the rezoning request. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Nay.
Nay.
The 3 opposed, 4 for approve. Is that correct? All right, motion's been approved. Item number 7.1, we're moving into new business. We've got a final plat, Whispering Wind subdivision, 14 proposed lots on 10.47 acres. Property located along Cumberland Drive, tax map 047, parcel 67.01. Property zoned R20. Property owned by Walt Toddy. Mr. Bauer, would you mind reading the staff comments or it's going to be item 7.1 here? Didn't mean to catch you unprepared.
There are no planning or engineering staff comments on this agenda item. The only minor change from the approved construction plans was lotting off the detention pond and pump station as a new Lot 16, such that it can be deeded to the Water Authority of Dixon County, and adding a note that access road to the track be paved instead of gravel.
Thank you, sir. Anybody have discussions with the staff or Mr. Toddy, I presume?
Move to approve.
All right, we've got a motion to approve. Okay. And a second from Mr. Anderson. Any discussion amongst the board?
I would just ask to amend the motion to make it contingent upon the staff comments being included.
Okay.
If I may, those comments were already addressed. I just wanted to point out that that was a change from what the planning commission approved on the construction plans. After we had consulted with the water authority, they had those several specific comments that they wanted addressed.
So they're already completed then?
They are.
All right. Then I'll withdraw my amendment.
All right, so we've got a motion on the table to approve. Any further discussion? Sam, was that a finger I saw in the air?
Will there actually be an easement on lot 15, or I'm sorry, on lot 13 or 14 to get to lot 15? That one that's the pointy lot in the corner?
Lot 15 has access off the rear. There's a gravel access. The one in the corner?
Yeah, the pointy one. Yeah, lot 15.
Yeah.
Not 16, 15.
Yeah, 15 has access off that gravel drive to the rear.
So it's actually gonna have an access.
Oh, are you talking
onto
about-
Cumberland Drive?
Yes, at the very top corner. There's a note actually in the note section that,
Okay, I didn't see that.
yeah, they do not want there to be an additional driveway added.
Okay,
So there's an existing gravel drive that will be utilized for 15.
okay, okay. I just wanted to make sure that there was an easement in place for them so that they
Yes.
didn't get locked out of their property.
Any additional discussion? All right. We've got a motion on the table to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion has been approved. Thank you, Mr. Toddy.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Moving on to item 7.2, final plat, Fairview Station, Phase 3, 3 proposed lots on 2.12 acres, property located along Tiger Trail, tax map 042, parcel 28.05, property zoned R20 PUD, property owned by A1 Restoration, Inc. Mr. Power, would you mind reading the staff comments for 7.2?
There are no planning or engineering staff comments for this agenda item. This is the final phase of the Fairview Station, formerly Spring Station subdivision, which is 3 lots located at the southern end of Tiger Trail cul-de-sac. As a side note, consideration was given by both the developer and the city to look at trying to make a through connection to Cox Pike, but a variety of factors preclude that option at this time and in this specific location. Specifically, while the city desired to make the road connection in the past, the city never purchased any land to the south to make it a feasible project and further its construction. The topography would cause a road extension to transverse a very steep grade. The new intersection point with Cox Pike would be just 250 feet plus or minus from the existing intersection of Lake Road in Cox Pike, which would create a new safety concern. And through connection would potentially create another safety concern in that motorists would speed down Tiger Trail past Westwood Elementary School if the road were opened up to Cox Pike. Additionally, all the infrastructure of the cul-de-sac is installed due to the fact that this submitted design was part of the first phase of the planning commission approved previously. Move to approve.
And right off the bat, you'd like to make a motion to approve?
Yep.
Do I get a second on the motion?
Second.
Would anybody like to discuss amongst the board? Or with the staff that's available as well?
I have concerns about the road, not being an option anymore. I think it should still be considered. Any input on that?
I guess in addition to the comments that were part of the staff report, if they, the city could have taken, the responsibility in purchasing some of this property in the past to try to make this a reality. And the developer worked hard to try to talk with the property owner directly south of the 3 lots to see if they could do a land swap or something. And there's no progress, it just doesn't look like a feasible option. Again, with the topography, we're looking at a road that was gonna have a grade over 10%. If you hold up basically that last phase you could have an unfinished subdivision for 20, 30, who knows how many years while you're waiting to try to make a connection at that point. And again, honestly, I think that the other safety concerns regarding opening it up and having another major intersection that close to the intersection of Lake and Cox is potentially a bad idea, in addition to having cars speeding past the school. And I think in looking at it, there might be a possibility where we could have a spur come off of Lake, or off of Tiger Trail that connected over to Lake Road, which I think would be a better idea. There's actually a couple 5-acre tracks that are open there, that would potentially make for a better option. I don't know, I've been looking at it quite a bit.
Well, I see a couple issues just from knowing some of the conversations. I mean, I think it played a lot in some of the decision-making of this subdivision, allowing it to go there, is the fact that it would potentially help finish a vision of the city to have a connector road from 96, to Cox Pike and going through to City Circle. I agree, the city has not done any purchasing to make that a reality, but there was a lot of conversation that that took place over this and making sure that it was left open for a potential road. So I just think the new board needs to take that into consideration. Because once there's houses there, there's no way there's gonna be a road.
My question, how long ago was that this was? 2
Since
years?
the problem, since they started, so, I don't know how long, when did y'all originally start?
Approximately 18 months ago.
Yeah, I would say,
New enough that the original plan of bringing the road all the way through was talked about.
no, I'm not saying that that was the best plan, to have that, but it was a long time plan to make there eventually be a connector road from 96 where you could get to Highway 100 and bypass.
Was that a contingency when they got their first phase approved?
Well, there was a lengthy conversations about making sure that they left that road where we could access Cox Pike.
When we originally approved this, when the subdivision was originally approved, we had requested this to be one phase, and there were only 20 taps available at the time. And so we phased it in this manner to leave this cul-de-sac as it is. Should we not have taps and the city have a major thoroughfare plan to access this, then we would work with the city to alter the plan as approved. But once we had the other 10 taps and we purchased those, we completed what was phase 2, which was 24 through 30, and then these 3 lots as well. So now this is, quote, phase 3 of the subdivision, and all the infrastructure is in place. There's no construction drawings with this. This is simply a final plat because all the utilities and the infrastructure have already been installed.
And approved.
Yes, sir.
If I had my say so about it, I would have wanted to see a road come straight out of the back of that cul-de-sac and it not be a cul-de-sac and come on through. I don't know where the mistake was or if there was a mistake, but at some point it got, it was allowed to kind of disappear. And I don't know where we are now. I'd like to see a road come through there, as you say, but, because I'm just very much against these bottleneck cul-de-sacs. Even if you moved your design of that cul-de-sac back to a straight road, to a dead end, how many lots you gonna lose? 2? Or 1, 4?
We'll actually pick up a lot if we modify 2 lots that are currently under construction, meaning the houses are going vertical right now. So it would really not be very feasible.
On already an approved section?
Yes, sir. Phase 1, we have lots 6 and 7, both having homes built on them right now, and they would both have to be modified in order to rip out the road that's already been installed.
Have they been sold?
I'm not sure right now. They just started construction.
Okay, but, do you start them as specs, or you start them only when you sell them?
No, sir. This entire subdivision is expected to be complete by July.
Thank you, sir. Any additional discussion? All right, we've currently got a motion before the board to approve. Any additional comments?
I have a question.
Okay, Commissioner Burks.
Sorry. This open space, I'm assuming, is where we were thinking that the road would go down. Is there realistically enough room to put a road there?
Are you talking about the 50-foot tail?
Yeah.
No,
It's
sir.
49 and,
There's not the way everything's designed, no.
Kristen, would you agree there's really not enough room to put a road there anyway, as is, with that narrow strip?
Yeah, I definitely agree. And to Mr. Anderson's comment, I mean, wanting to see the cul-de-sac go directly straight down, that would've been great, except nobody owns the property, and you can't make those people sell the property for the purpose of constructing a road someday in the future.
Outside of trying to condemn.
Sure.
Where that joins Cox Pike, it's at the top of a hill on a curve. So you're coming up and making a curve right there at that junction. And I don't feel like that's a very logical road entrance.
I agree.
It's already pretty dangerous right around there as it is.
I just have a problem with us approving a subdivision, thinking that this was a potential possibility, regardless if it was. I'm sure the Westwood Elementary would much rather no traffic behind the school. So I'm sure if you talk to a lot of citizens, they would say, don't do the pass-through. But at some point in time, you know, and, you know, maybe this will come with the comprehensive plan, but, you know, if this was ever going to happen, this was our chance. And we're going to let it go because we weren't staying on top of it, or we didn't know exactly. We're a new board. I don't know, but that was the original plan. So I feel a little jilted. Like this was our plan and we're not going to hold up to it. And, you know, I understand your dilemma, but there was lengthy conversations.
I was here for
I
those
know.
conversations, and we've also spoken with the school and the way they do their traffic pickup at the elementary school there. They have car stacking in the lane, and I feel like that would really further or bolster the argument against a thoroughfare because they have nowhere to put the cars and it would impede traffic.
Right. Well, I mean, I'm saying, I know if I know they would prefer it not to be
Well,
a connector road.
we've had conversations and we've done alternate engineering performance.
Yeah, but I guess my point is, I don't know why we're steering away, but from what we originally agreed to.
So right now, the motion before the board is to approve the final plat according to the cul-de-sac that we have there, phase 3. Without the road pass-through, which according to the city engineer would cause at least 2 different additional safety concerns.
Can I just make one more comment as well? I represent SEC, the engineering firm that did most of the design work on this. Not only the 2 safety issues that we have with the connection of the road, but the road itself is almost not feasible to build. The topography of that hills, it would put the road anywhere from 11 to 12% grade. And with the line of sight coming off of that into an intersection, into a curb, the engineering is just not possible based on city regulations currently. You know, if the plan was to make a connection, the engineering in the front should have been done first to make sure that the connection was possible before approval.
Thank you, sir.
Valid point, but I still feel like with the conversation, y'all, at some point, were included along the way and knew this was an expectation. Now, where the city followed up or made sure that this was a feasible thing to do, you know, fine, I hear your argument. But the problem is, you know, I just wonder if it would have been approved. I don't know.
Commissioner Burks?
I guess I just want to clarify. My understanding is this approval was not made contingent upon this road connection being there. I understand there may have been discussions, more of a wish list, but it was not actually made contingent. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. I mean, there was a lot of discussion that it was a wish list item for sure. But as you can see, it was designed without the connection being made. Otherwise, it would be in the plans. So
I have a feeling in the motion, it probably did have that in the minutes if we looked that up. But I don't know how much time we want to spend rehashing it when we have an engineering saying it's not feasible. But I would almost guess it would be in the motion.
Ms. Costanzo?
I believe I pulled the minutes to see if that was the case, and the approval was not contingent upon the connection being made, but there was discussion that they would like to see it happen in all of the discussion at the meeting. I'd be happy to send you the minutes tomorrow if you'd like.
Yes, I would. But I have a feeling if you pull the tape, you're probably going to hear that, so I recommend listening to that too.
All right, so we've got a motion before the board to go ahead and approve item 7.2. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Motion is approved. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Moving on to item 7.3, construction plans for Cumberland Estates Phase 3, 40 proposed lots, 13.62 acres. Property located on Amby Way, Bobo Court, and Breslton Way, tax map 047, parcel 66.04. Property zoned R20 PUD, property owned by Cumberland Estates LLC. Mr. Anderson, would you be so kind as to read the staff comments for item 7.3?
Yes, staff comments, there are no planning or engineering staff comments on this agenda item.
We do have a representative here if the board would like to discuss with him or with the staff. Mr. Power? We can discuss with the staff and the representative right now, and then once we have a motion, then we can discuss with ourselves. No comments? Nothing for discussion? All right. Can I get a motion to approve or disapprove?
Motion to approve.
Got a motion? Can I get a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion amongst the board? No? All right. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion is approved. Thank you, sir. Moving on to item 7.4, modification to Cumberland Estates Phase 1 approval requirements as they pertain to lots number 2 and number 48. Parcels located at 7420 and 7424 Cumberland Drive. That's tax map 047P, Group C, parcels 47 and 48. Property zoned R20 PUD, property owned by Cumberland Estates LLC. Commissioner Burks, would you mind reading the staff comments for 7.4?
The applicant has asked that this item be deferred to the January 2018 agenda.
Great. I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to defer until next month's meeting.
Second.
All right, any discussion amongst the board? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion has been deferred. Item number 7.4 has been deferred until next month. Item number 7.5, rezoning of property requested by Dolores June Lambert, property located at 7170 Horn Tavern Road, tax map 022, parcel 69.01, 2 acres. Current zoning district is RS40, proposed zoning district RS20. And would anybody like to read the staff comments for 7.5?
I'll read them.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson.
Staff comments, there are no planning staff comments on this rezoning request. All required documentation was submitted by the applicant. As evident in the provided letter, the purpose of this rezoning request to allow the subdivision of family property to allow for the construction of one single-family house. The great majority surrounding the property is already zoned R20, Brandenburg, Cove, Willow Crest, or RS15, Hidden Lake. Based on information from the applicant, the proposed new construction would line up with the house across Hidden Lake Road, which would make it appear to be part of Hidden Lake neighborhood.
Thank you, sir. Would the board like to discuss anything with the staff? If not, could I get a motion to approve or disapprove?
To approve.
Got a motion to approve. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion amongst the board? Commissioner Burks?
I have a question. Considering the way this lot is and the current house is kind of stuck in the middle of that lot, will there be enough room under an R20 to put this house there with the setbacks required?
Yes, there will be. We had looked at a couple different designs between myself and the applicant. And as I mentioned in the staff comments, the house is proposed to go in the southwest corner of the yellow flag so that it would roughly line up with the house across the street. And there's, for a 20,000 square foot lot, they have enough room and they have enough road frontage.
And so how will they access it?
They'll access it off of, most likely off of Hidden Lake. However, the purpose of this is for the daughter of the homeowner to build on that southwestern corner. So they did discuss that maybe she might just utilize the existing driveway that's off of Horn Tavern Road, that they would just have a shared driveway potentially. But the applicant is here if you have any specific questions for Ms. Candace.
Thank you.
I think they prefer it be off of Hidden Lake. the dog.
So it'll be facing the subdivision. The house will be designed to look similar or some
Yeah.
type.
Yeah.
So then the new property line, the parcel would be split, I'm imagining, into a northern half and a southern half, property line going east-west.
Yes.
Thank you. Any more questions, comments, concerns? No? Could I get a motion to approve, or well, actually, we've already had the motion on the table to approve. I'd like to go ahead and call the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion has been approved. Thank you. Moving to item 7.6, rezoning of property requested by Tim Mangrum. Property located on Fernvale Road, tax map 042, parcel 63. It's 6.6 acres. Current rezoning, the current zoning district is RS40, proposed zoning district to RM12. Let's see. Do we have staff comments for this one? Madam Mayor, would you mind reading the staff comments for item 7.6?
Staff comments, there are no planning staff comments on rezoning request. All required documentation was submitted by the applicant as evidence in the provided letter. The purpose of this rezoning request is to allow construction of a new 13-lot, single-family residential subdivision on half-acre lots which mirror the existing rezoning and development of the property located directly north on Fairfield Court, as well as the Sweetbriar Springs and Fairview Station subdivision located south of this subject property.
I think we have the wrong item.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
could y'all stop me ahead of time?
Okay.
That's why I was like, this is not where, I'd appreciate if you would have stopped me. That was a long read.
Would you like me to read it?
Sure.
I'll be glad to. Staff comments. There are no planning staff comments on this rezoning request. All required documentation was submitted by the applicant. As evidence in the provided letter, the purpose of this rezoning request is to allow for an expansion of the existing Fernvale Springs development, which is currently still in construction. This proposed extension would connect to the existing development located directly south of the subject property and would consist of 40 senior-friendly townhomes and 18 market-rate apartments for a total of 58 new units. The property is located immediately off Highway 100 to the north, where it is bounded by several commercial properties and Old Nashville Road to the south, and thus it has good access. Any discussion with the staff or with the applicant?
Is this actually going to connect to the current Fernbell Springs subdivision?
That is something that, should the property be rezoned, that is something that we would definitely discuss during the site plan phase, and we would hope that it would connect through. In discussion with the applicant, I believe you can see where Fernvale Springs Way comes, goes east and then north up towards units like 12 and 13. I believe he was willing to have those removed to allow the continuation of the road through into the northern parcel.
Are there not units there currently?
No.
What's the current status of Fernbell Springs? Is it completed?
It's still under construction.
Okay. Is this one of is this road actually deeded to the city, or is this considered private still?
I'm not totally positive without seeing the,
It's private.
I was gonna say it's probably private since it's for townhomes.
Okay, I was just making sure I was thinking the right location, because my understanding is there's several complaints that have come in from homeowners that the final layer of asphalt's not been put down, and they've been complaining for quite some time on this area. Can we make any approval contingent upon that final layer of asphalt being put down upon completion of the second phase, in the first phase as well?
I don't know that you can have the rezoning contingent upon that, but that would be something that during the site plan, should the rezoning go through, the approval of the site plan.
So it can be contingent upon the site plan approval, but not
Right.
the rezoning.
Right.
Did I hear correctly that the roads are gonna remain private?
And did you work with the original development, or you're working with the original as far as connector roads, and you know that's a feasible option?
I was the original developer of Fernville Springs. It's changed hand a couple times over the last few years. We have acquired the balance of Fernville Springs. The only units in there now that has not been started is 10, 11, 12, and 13. And just to clarify one thing that the city planner said, we would intend on putting the road actually somewhere between where 11 and 12 is, and turn those buildings to face the new street. We wouldn't lose any, we would just simply turn those. I have talked to the HOA for Fernville Springs. Matter of fact, they voted, we was hoping to get this on the agenda a couple months back, and they didn't have their annual meeting until October. They voted and approved for us to extend the development contingent upon city approval. Now, the one thing that they would like to see, and I'm not gonna say I agree or disagree, they would like for it to remain one way in and one way out. They seem to think that that would be less traffic for them. I tend to believe if you got another exit, it would be less for the homeowners that's there now, because if you add, another 80 cars roughly a day coming through there, then, the original unit owners are gonna see a lot of traffic. But if they go out closer to Highway 100, I think that would actually take some traffic away from them.
Plus there'd be the cul-de-sac issue that comes up from time to time, if there's not another entrance and exit.
Correct.
Okay, and the only other question, that house, that acre lot, the entrance of that is right off the highway, is that correct?
Yes.
And so when you rezone, I guess you're gonna take those in consideration, doing a buffer or barrier between?
Yes, and I'll be glad to go talk to her, because right now, she has her beauty salon in the basement, and her entrance to her beauty salon is actually on this piece of property. So I'll go talk to her, and I'll be, we'll do whatever to buffer that, and, if the city don't have a problem with it, I'll just assume her use the new road if we end up coming out on that upper side to access our beauty salon, opposed to having two driveways at her house now.
Don't have any issues of use, ingress, egress for her that you have to contend with?
No. Now, that, the owners of that property now, they actually inherited it from their parents. Their parents owned the house and that, and they split it off 15 or 20 years ago. And the house was sold off about 10 years ago.
So she's actually using a driveway on property that is not hers.
I haven't had it surveyed, but that's the way it appears, and that's what the seller said.
Just so that there's,
Correct me if I'm wrong, but sometimes when you've had continuous use of ingress, egress across another piece of property, you can't, that property owner cannot take that away from them. Is that correct?
That's 20 years.
Is it a 20-year deal?
Yeah, and it's only been there about 2, so.
Okay.
but if you were to share the driveway with her, allow her to have access to it, she's not probably going to have any problems.
No, I mean, she just literally go up right onto a paved road, so it would probably help her.
Probably.
And to clarify one of your questions, Mr. Bergson, that road, there has been a lot of complaints, especially back before we acquired it back. And that was another issue that I had to clarify before we purchased that, is that was one of my wants, was to finish that development. We were hoping to maybe try to do it before wintertime this year, but construction just didn't go far enough as we thought it would before the weather's gotten cold. I do have, got a quote about a month ago from a paver, and then I've got another paver that's actually starting to pave Horn Tavern today. He's gonna come next week and get a quote that'll be good for spring.
And that'll be up to city standards, even though it is a private road, I assume.
Well, it's not up to city standards because it doesn't have curbs, but it's built to city standards as far as the binder, the gravel underneath it, and the topping. That's all to city standards, but it doesn't have curves or sidewalks.
You won't have to have any construction traffic going through there. You'll have a construction entrance separate.
Yeah, that's another thing that I told the HOA was either I would have a construction entrance on one of those two other access points.
Because we don't want to put down new pavement, obviously, then
Oh, yeah.
tear it up.
Any additional discussion between the staff or the applicant?
Please tell me it's gonna be something in an affordable price range, not 400.
Well, right now,
500,000.
the newest ones we have in there, which we're still using that same plan there, they start at about 189, and they're senior friendly. Most of our people that live there, I'm gonna say 80%, I haven't actually took a actual poll, but 80% of them are 55 or older. I just sold 3 this year, the people's in their 70s.
Any additional discussion? Would anybody like to make a motion?
Motion to approve.
Got a motion to approve? Could I get a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion amongst the board? No? All right, I'm going to call the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion has been approved.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Moving on to item 7.7, rezoning of property requested by Habitat for Humanity. Property,
Go any further, I'm going to recuse myself from this item as I am a Habitat for employee.
thank you. Item 7.7, rezoning of property requested by Habitat for Humanity. Property located at 500 Highway 96 North, tax map 022, parcel 134.07. It's 8.34 acres. Current zoning district is RS40. Proposed zoning district is R20. Mr. Anderson, would you be so kind as to read the staff comments for 7.7?
Yes, sir. Staff comments, there are no planning staff comments on this rezoning request. All required documents was submitted by the applicant as evident in the provided letter. The purpose for this rezoning request is to allow for construction of a new 13-lot, single-family residential subdivision on half-acre lots which mirror the existing zoning development of properties located directly north on Fairfield Court, as well as the Sweetbriar Springs and Fairview Station subdivisions located south of the subject property.
Thank you, sir. Anybody like to, I believe, a representative for Habitat for Humanity is here? Anybody like to discuss with him or the staff? Mr.
I have
Anderson?
one comment. I live off of Chester Road, and they've just completed a second home, Habitat for Humanity there. The house was fairly well built, but I just really deplore the landscaping and the grading of the two houses that are sitting there. For people that have to have a Habitat for Humanity home, I would think that you'd be further than normal as far as grading and landscaping, but for the possibility these people can't maintain it. And it is just really terrible workmanship and layout of the street, the parking area. I just really think it's about a very poor job. And I hate to see another 14 houses go in looking like that. The houses themselves are nice. It's just the grading and landscaping on the property.
Any thoughts, sir?
What specifically don't you like about the landscaping or the grading?
Being Pacific, the newest additional houses placed up, the parking area for the driveway is at a pretty steep grade to one side, so a person with a baby or anything else is gonna have door issues getting in and out of the car. They could have graded that up. It was obvious they didn't bring in, the day that they didn't have any gravel to create the new bed for that parking area. But the one that was built before that, the driveway washed out on both sides. They poured concrete at the street and left a form on the concrete for a solid year until you built the new section of the second house. I would have, if I'd have been on the board in the beginning when that came up, I would have not allowed on that particular lot a flagged driveway system because the grading should have been cut so you come straight off Chester Road. I can go further, but I don't feel like it's my place to do so.
Any additional comments, discussions, questions?
So is this by another Habitat for Humanity subdivision or something, or?
What it says.
And we're simply voting on a rezoning. We're not voting on any sort of approval for design or plat or anything like that. We can do that kind of stuff later. Yep. Okay. Well, if there's no more discussion, do you have a motion on the table?
Move to approve.
Have a motion to approve? Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion is approved. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Looks like that's it for zoning, rezoning. We are moving on to item 7.8. It's a review and approval of the Planning Commission calendar of dates for 2018. Everybody have that in your packet? Would anybody like to discuss anything with Ms. Costanzo while we're here? Any questions, comments, concerns, compliments?
The one thing, PC workshop, is that staff meeting? Is that the staff?
It was previously called Plans Review Meeting. That was something that I was hoping to change when I came on board. Since I've been here, the only member of the Planning Commission that attends the plan review is the chairman. So therefore, the Planning Commission, the remainder of the members don't have any input into any of the plans that are on the agenda. So I think it's a better idea if we have the entire membership of the Planning Commission is welcome to come to that. I call it a workshop. We can still call it a plan review, whatever you want. But as long as it is part of a published schedule and calendar that is made public, there's not going to be any kind of conflict of interest of the members coming and discussing the item, because it's basically a published meeting. So I was also hoping to ask if, currently we do it at 9:30 in the morning. I would be open to changing it to the afternoon or evening, whatever works best for everyone's schedule. But I think even if the whole membership can't make it to the workshop every month to review the plans and give your input, it would be good, even if 4 or 5 people came, it would still be better than just having one person. So
What's the duration of the meeting, time-wise?
just depends on however long the agenda is. We informally go through each item with the applicant or their engineer, and we have various members of different city staff, like the fire department, police department, road parks, what have you, will come, and we go through the submitted plan briefly, talk about any kind of, comments, concerns, deficiencies. That's the other thing that will be changing between the submittal deadline and the workshop. There will be an 8-day spread instead of 3 days. So that'll give myself and the city engineer time to adequately review all of the submitted plans and work up the staff comment sheet before the workshop, so that when the applicant comes, we will actually give them the comments at the workshop, instead of having to wait for comments to be drafted and then send them out. So this should be a more efficient timeframe of getting everything done that needs to be done.
It's the same meeting that we went to at the very first or second meeting that I was on this board. We were invited to sit in
Yes.
but we were not allowed to make any comment at all.
Right, and that's basically just because the way the calendar was done previously, the plan review meeting was not advertised as a public meeting. So if more than one member of the planning commission is going to be there, it has to be, the calendar has to be published somewhere. So it'll be on the website as one of our standard dates of the planning commission schedule.
Thank you.
Exception of that one in December.
Yes, and that was just because how close it was to Christmas. So I just moved that one up, yeah. I think everything shook out pretty evenly. We didn't hit, I think actually July 4th, I think I moved one of those dates, but everything is pretty standard as far as how it's spread out.
Is this going to allow the information to get to the planning commission a little bit sooner, such as staff reviews?
Well, since you'd be invited to be there, and so it'll be the first week after we get the planning commission packets.
Okay.
So that way, it'll give you an opportunity, if you're able to come to the workshop, for you to have input on the plans. So if there's anything that you want to see changed, that'll be something that we can add to the staff comments from the engineer and myself. And the applicant will have another week to have those revisions made, get the plans back to us, and then we get them back to you, so that you have them, again, a week in advance of the meeting. But it'll allow all of the members of the planning commission or whoever can be there to have some input on the plans rather than just seeing them the day of the meeting.
Appreciate that. If there's no additional discussion, could I get a motion to approve the planning commission calendar for the dates for 2018?
Motion to approve.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Couple seconds. Any discussion amongst the board? No. All right. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion approved. Moving on to section 8, reports for discussion and information. City planner, any comments?
Nothing tonight, other than I look forward to seeing you at the training on Thursday.
City engineer's not here tonight. Mr. City Attorney? Thank you. Happy holidays to you. And item 8.4, city manager? Sir,
Yes,
Mr. Collins.
Just one thing for you tonight. The work session for Thursday, we look forward to that. That's going to take most of the day. We'll kind of have a pretty jam-packed schedule. Obviously, lunch will be provided, and then it'll be a working lunch. We like to get started at 8:30. We will probably wind up around 4. With lunch taking about an hour, we'll work within there. We'll get an agenda out to everyone tomorrow evening. We're going to meet tomorrow at 10 and again at 1 with Will to finalize everything we'll have going through. But we look forward to a pretty productive day and appreciate you guys taking the time to do it.
Thank you for setting that up.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item number 9, or section 9, communication for the planning commission members. Starting from my left.
Quick question. One of the things that was discussed at the tree board meeting last night was that while Mr. Berkeley was indeed able to make his original comments on finalized plans for the trees and stuff like that, he was not ever actually seeing and signing off on finals where changes had been made. So that their finals were not ever being seen by Mr. Berkeley.
Can I address that also?
Sure.
This has been kind of an ongoing question since I've gotten here. So kind of let me walk you through the process as I have it and let me explain some work that was done today on that. And this will be part of our discussion on Thursday.
Okay.
The question has been, there's been brought to me, is the process for approval for landscaping designs, things of that nature, as they come before this board. The perception has been, or the discussion has been, whether or not there is a requirement that those go back to the tree board for approval as a part of the submission to the planning commission.
And
The answer to that is generally no.
correct. I was not talking to that point.
Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead. Maybe I've jumped ahead.
I was saying that Mr. Berkeley was actually not seeing them and signing off on them a second time. He was only seeing the preliminary, making comments, recommendations. He said that he would say these items are not on the tree list or whatever his landscaping critiquing was, but that he himself was not seeing the plans a second time to say, yes, this information is indeed corrected and changed.
Correct, and the issue is there's no provision currently that takes place.
Okay.
There's no ordinance or resolution that says that. So there's no ordinance by the city or no subdivision regulation that requires that. So what's typically happened in the past is, and this is kind of part of a broader discussion, but it comes down to what is established for the tree board to consider or their activities in the approval of these things. The information that I have, and again, this is part of our discussion for Thursday, is that the tree commission essentially had 3 functions. The function 1 was to establish an approved plantings list, which I think that was done by ordinance of the City Council or Board of Commissioners as it was brought up. The second item is that the tree board, there are matters brought to their attention that are trees or plantings that are on the public rights of way as a portion of that activity. And secondly, or thirdly, would be a tree plan or planting plan for the city for its plantings, trees, shrubs, whatever have you, as a plan going forward to be developed for the city for properties on the rights of way. The last thing that took place, kind of a 3.5, is the establishment of a tree fund, so that basically what happens is when property is cleared, if there are trees to be removed, there's an ordinance that was recommended by the tree commission to the city commission or city council that established the tree fund, so that if trees were to be removed, there is a value to those trees and those funds will be remitted back to the city. Those are the three functions that existed or currently exist. Your question, and the question that's been brought up over the last year, is there a requirement that the city arborist sign off on plans that are submitted to the planning commission?
For the BOC for final.
It would not go to the Board of Commissioners.
Oh, okay.
It would only come to this body.
Okay.
Yes, that's correct. And currently, there's no provision that requires that.
So the landscaping has never been codified.
The landscape,
right?
the plantings have been codified. That's the process. Keep in mind, there's a function of the planning commission and a function of the city council. The approved plantings has been codified, and it is required as a function of this board. What is not required as a function of this board is that the city arborist sign off on that plan. That's done by staff.
Okay, it's done by staff. So that would mean that if, and this, I'm just talking right now.
Sure.
That if Mike, who actually knows what the approved tree list, isn't doing a final sign-off, then somebody who sits on this commission needs to know what that final tree list is so that we can make sure that what's being submitted is indeed in compliance.
We have that as a part of what's provided to the city, and the city goes and makes those inspections. And once that's done, then they'll be issued a CO if that's the last thing to be done, as an example.
I was just going to say, just to add to that, when plans come to us at the beginning of the process for review, there is a landscape plan that is submitted, and
Has all that stuff.
right, I mean, the approved canopy tree list, the approved shrub, and the approved understory tree list is all published as a part of the city regulations. So I know, in looking at the landscape plan, that yes, this does meet it or it doesn't. And so if there was something that was incorrect as far as the number of trees, the spacing, or the species, I would make that as one of my staff comments in the report that goes back to the applicant for them to change it.
Okay, so it is getting addressed and approved or signed off on by someone, so
Right.
that it's not just being willy-nilly ignored.
Right, absolutely not. We
And I think
definitely
that
check
was one
it.
of our concerns, was that it was possibly falling through the cracks, because I know I do not have the treatment list memorized.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So if I see these plans, I'm not going to know if the trees that they have listed are indeed the right ones and the final ones, unless somebody who actually knows that list has indeed done that. And I think that without not knowing that you had that, I think that that was some confusion that we were having at the tree meeting last night.
For staff, the inspection of the tree list and what's on that plat is no different than fire hydrants, storm drain inlets, distances between, it's just another check on the box that we go through, so.
So just to make apples, does, like the fire marshal get to sign off on everything, or does that not get signed off by him either?
There's no official signing off of anything. These people all come to that plan review or workshop,
Okay.
and those are things that are examined on the plans. If the fire marshal sees that the hydrants are more than 500 feet apart, then it is noted, and they have to fix it when they
Okay.
resubmit. Yeah.
So it's not like it's going to other departments to be
Right.
signed off on, but just not the arborist
Right.
to be signed off?
And Mr. Berkeley does come to the
Yes, I
plan
know.
review to
He
kind
is
of
very-
note, what's being
He is
submitted, but.
very possessive and protective of his plantings here in Fairview, which I think is a huge asset to all of us to make sure that we keep some of that rural charm in our city as it grows bigger. So,
Thank you very much.
Sorry, that went a little longer. I apologize.
Mr. Anderson, any comments?
Yes, I'd like to say that I'm very much in favor of Habitat for Humanity. I just feel that you're giving a helping hand to some people. It should not be a halfway done or a shoddy job. And so to me, those people more so than some of the others need to have their product as perfect as possible, because they may or may not, being Habitat people, have the capability financially or physically to take care of their property.
Mr. Power?
Nothing tonight.
Thank you, sir. And down at this end?
Nothing specifically, except Thursday, I won't be able to make it. My daughter's in from New York City, and she won't be here for Christmas, so I'm going to spend Thursday with her. So,
Understood, as you should.
yeah.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Burks?
I have nothing tonight.
Madam Mayor?
Okay, thank you. Just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, since this will be our last meeting before Christmas, and Happy New Year's. And then also, I just want to remind everybody, these microphones are a little wacky, and if you really don't have them to your mouth, if they're up here, the citizens cannot hear you, and we get complaints. So I just to remind y'all that when you keep your mics on and keep them down towards your mouth, then that'll help. And maybe everybody, you got great things to say. We all want to hear it. So thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you for the PSA. And then for me, just thank you to everyone for your graciousness tonight, allowing me to come up here and stumble a little bit and keep me on track and let it be a successful meeting. So thank you very much. I appreciate it tremendously. Other than that, please have a Merry Christmas and just enjoy your time with your family. And with that, thank you. All in favor? Aye. Meeting's adjourned.